Hello, welcome to Heart Standard. Sorry we're late. How are you doing, Joe?
Yes, a wee bit rushed, and apologies. It was my own fault that we are late. Well, a mixture of is it my own fault or is it Logan and Bus's fault? But I won't get into that and the timing of their buses, which left me frustrated. I get a certain bus from Dalry, and between me walking out of Tynecastle and that next bus coming, there were 4 or 5 other of this of a different number, a WrestleRig 25 before my next 44. It was just a shambles.
I'm sure you get a lot of sympathy with the failings of LRT and the planning of the transport and just like road network generally in Edinburgh. I'm glad that I don't have to navigate it that much. I know it sounded like I was just passing the blame on to you right away from the intro there, but I was doing it rushed because we're just going to do a wee bit of an in and out job here. We've had a lot of videos going up recently. There's not much turnaround between now and kickoff tomorrow night, but The press conferences were today, and you were there, so we thought it'd be good just to come on for a little bit and talk through what happened at Tynecastle today. But before we do, we will get, obviously, every one of these videos are sponsored by Good Vibes. And Good Vibes giveaways, where are we? Good Vibes giveaways are proud to support Heart Standard and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and include tech, gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. Get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. Apologies for a little bit of the stumbling over that to begin with. But yeah, Joel, just before we kind of go into any specifics, what was the kind of vibe around Gorgie and more specifically Tynecastle today?
It was probably more settled compared to Ammonia. Like Neil Critchley that was his first experience of managing in Europe properly. He'd obviously done it with Liverpool in the UEFA Youth League, but against Ammonia was his kind of first time. So having done that, I think there was kind of knew what to expect, and because it was building up to the first league phase home game, I think there was a wee bit more kind of buzz about it. I think it was a wee bit more of a calm affair. Kind of knew what was expected. There wasn't big kind of like headlines. It was all just pretty straightforward. There was interest. It was probably more interested on the Heidenheim side. They think they were appreciative of the curiosity of their journey. The fact they had the one of the players they had, the player they had for press conference was Adrian Beck, who played for Hamilton for a short period under Brian Rice, and then the manager seemed like a really nice guy, so an interesting character. Both spoke brilliant English, but how these things work, where you basically a question will be get answered in, for example, German, and then be translated to English. Then it's answered in German, and then it's translated to English, or kind of vice versa. So you don't get as much flow. But he was quite funny. He just seemed to be enjoying it. Whereas like Valdis Drambouskis, the Ammonia manager, he had the connection with Hearts. It wasn't the same as Schmidt, but he got the feeling that Heidenheim were just really enjoying their whole experience of being in European action. And I think they played Paphos, the Cypriot side. I think they played them away, and they played Haken in qualifying. They played them away as well, the Swedish side, over two legs. But I think this was probably the biggest interesting name so far, in terms of the fact that there's quite a bit of Scottish press there, and the history with the Hearts history as well. Hearts are a bigger club than Haken or kind of Paphos, so I think they took a lot of fascination in that. There is I think it's RTL, the German who have the rights maybe in Germany. They've got a few journalists over. I actually got. I was walking to Tynecastle today, having got off the bus, which ran really smoothly, and I got stopped by a presenter and camera crew outside Tynecastle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they didn't introduce anything. They just the guy just came up to me and goes, "Hello, who is this?" And he showed me his phone, and it was a Heidenheim badge, but it was like all the lettering and the foundation, like all the lettering and the numbers were taken out. And so he was just like, "Who do you know who this club are?" I was like, "Yeah, that's Heidenheim." And he was like, "Oh, how do you know that?" I was like, "Yeah, cause I'm just going in to do the press conference." So I think they've been filming like in the Grass Market and around Edinburgh. So I think they're making a big deal out of it. So yeah, I think it's when you see what their journey, their story is. I think they are here in Europe to, I think, just really enjoy it. I think their focus and priority is the league and staying in the Bundesliga, which I think they probably should do, even though they've had a bit of struggles recently. So I think they're just like kind of not how Hearts were a couple of years ago in the Conference League, but just it's taken as it comes and enjoying kind of every moment of it, because it's one of those where it's hard to see them like just kind of long term being a team who will be pushing to Europe. Like kind of said in the comments, they're the kind of a community club. They're a smaller club from a region that doesn't have much kind of professional football. I'm sure that's what it said. So yeah, it's it was interesting, but probably more interesting from the Heidenheim side.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about the translations there, because I was watching the Mourinho one the other day with Fenerbahce, but it was going on about the referee, and it said like the tease was 8-minute rant, and you clicked on it, about half of that was it being translated, but not even just that, probably not half of it, because during that first answer I was thinking, how much of that's actually getting translated fully? And that's before you even take into consideration what gets lost in translation, etc. There
is that. So the translator today was brilliant, but there's been a couple of translators previously, not at Tynecastle or more so away games like the Pilsen away game, where there was a big answer and then you get like a one-word sentence back. He's like, he's definitely said more than that. He's definitely said more than that.
Yeah, exactly. So turning our attention to Hearts, I suppose the most important thing, even though I gather there's not much to tell, is team news. As far as I remember, there's nobody either in or out, but there were a couple updates on injured players.
Yeah, so tomorrow it'll just be squad as usual. I think Salazar will come back into it. Macaulay Tate will probably come back into it, just because you can name a bigger bench.
Yeah.
Whereas Oda and Neuenhoff, it's frustrating. It's because every time it's been a few weeks or still progressing, but both are. I think Hearts and Critchley are just they're reluctant to put a specific, definite timescale on it, just because, especially Neuenhoff, it's been a really difficult time for him. I think it was the fact that I think he. They hoped it wasn't as serious. His injury was as serious as first thought back in March when he was taken off against Celtic, and then they kind of gave it time, and then realised. I think they kind of realised, right, probably do need to have an operation or surgery, and then he's just had a couple of setbacks since. Because I remember being in Tenerife, and he wasn't doing the full training, but he was in the gym, and it was kind of just like once he gets back from Tenerife, that's when he'll start joining in. And then every time he kind of went to increase it, or I think a lot of it to do was when he had to go start sprinting, it was uncomfortable. So there's been a couple of setbacks. Oda's probably more. He's going to be back sooner than Neuenhoff, just because he's not been out for that long. But in terms of Thursday, there's nothing significant. I'll just bring in Scam ask what's happening with Taylor. Absolutely nothing from the club. Taylor is still here, so he is long-term injury, I think that will just be a case of they might look at it in January, but he's still here. He's turning up at every game, so they obviously view him as still being part of it. And then I think it's a bridge that'll be crossed later on in the season.
And it could very well be a historic night. I mean, we've been using the language all but qualify, but am I not right in saying that Hearts would qualify if they were to win? Or could there still be a freak set of results where 9 isn't enough to qualify?
The reasons, so a win tomorrow, and I would say Hearts have qualified, but if it was a draw, they got 7 points. The reason we've been using all but qualified is just because this is never this league has never been done before, and all the projections, all the simulations, all projections say that 7 points will be enough. But as we've seen in many different walks of life, simulations and projections can sometimes be wrong. So
I think there must still be, given the format, there must be a minimum. I know that when that's been worded, it's been projected how much that will be enough to. So that's not necessarily saying that's the minimum that will qualify you, but there must be a minimum, whether it's 9 or 10. But there will still be some freak scenario where you could have. I mean, you could have every team finish on the same points, for instance.
Yeah.
So yes, it wouldn't be certain, but it would take it from 95% to like close to 100%. We would be in a couple of percentage points of 100%, you'd imagine. So yeah, how do you think Hearts will approach it then? I mean, for me, I think from what Critchley's been saying, he's not really looking at this competition bigger picture. He's just kind of looking at it game to game. He's not even being cliched about it. I think he genuinely is. And I think he will have seen what we've learned about Heidenheim and what Hearts have done successfully in recent matches, and that's get at teams from the off and try and rock them, and then try and, from what Stefan was saying to you, which I would implore people to go check out if they're looking for a bit more information on Heidenheim, is they scored a lot of goals at the end of matches, so we might need a similar display to what we had against St Johnstone towards the end of the game. If we are defending a lead.
I asked Critchley if it was going to be different, if it was going to be a different test, or if it's what's required of Hearts is different to what was required against Omonia, and he did, because he said yes, it's two different tests, two different teams. Even though that Heidenheim, like on paper, would be a much better side than Omonia, they play football different ways. So Omonia are used to having the ball in the league, so that they kind of dominate possession when in league games, and that's how they tried to play against Hearts. We talked about it, did analysis after it, where they tried to build from the back, and they just simply weren't good enough with the pressure and intensity that Hearts brought, especially in that first period. Whereas Heidenheim are much more direct. I think you could draw similarities to Hearts, where ideally you probably don't want to dominate possession. You're probably better in the transitional phase, when there's a wee bit more chaos to the game. But I still do expect Hearts to want to start really quickly and play direct and get in their faces, but they'll have to. I think they'll have to be smarter about it. I think Benny and I think Graham mentioned it in the comments about being really impressed with Boateng, and he and Benny will be massive for us tomorrow. I agree. I think them having that platform to cover ground, to intercept is going to be massive, and it'll help give the team a strong foundation or defensive platform in midfield to protect against Heidenheim. So many times I've been trying to say Hoffenheim or right Hoffenheim.
Wait until we're playing Petrofac.
I know. They'll be massive if Heidenheim look to counter-attack. But what else I think really interesting from Critchley was him talking about the fact that when Hearts lose the ball in certain areas, because that's what Heidenheim want to get it, want to pounce and get forward, and that's where I'm thinking Hearts might want to be a bit more direct. So, I'm not saying play percentages, but look to put the ball in the channels, or look to be a bit more direct, because it's in those areas where you're in the midfield where you're trying to pass through. And if that's where Heidenheim steal it, I think that's where they're going to be more dangerous. Whereas if you lose it in the final third, then they still have a long way to travel to make a chance, for example.
Yeah, and let's not be naive about it. It might turn out that there's just a huge gulf in quality on the night. We've got to remember that this is the Scottish Premiership versus a Bundesliga side, even if it's a relatively new one and a kind of like one that's punching above its weight. But we could just find ourselves hemmed in. We are still in the very early stages of a new manager. There's still a fragility there hints of a fragility there that we've spoken about, that we've seen in certain games. So it could be that they are just far too good for us on the night as well. And I don't necessarily mean that they come and it's like a 4-0 or anything. I'm just more talking about getting in their faces and all that. They just might be the protagonists on the night, given that they are just a better bunch of players.
Yeah. I'm very much in the.
I know they're out of form, but they could still click, and they have done earlier. Not so long ago, they were still they're in poor form at the moment, but they were in very good form to start the season.
Yeah, they won. I think they might won 3 of the first 4 league games, or 3 of the first 5 league games. They gave Dortmund a scare in Dortmund. But they've got quality. I take confidence from the fact that their 3 best players last season have gone. So the kind of 3 players that made them tick as an attacking force have gone. They play in a way that might get Hearts, like just putting loads of crosses in the box, and sometimes we've not been the best this season at defending counterattacks, but I do think that's probably been a wee bit better under Critchley. But I'm still in the camp of, I don't know if it's just because I've kind of been lulled into it, but like speaking to Stefan and looking at their form and the criticism the managers had recently, just like mild criticism just about how they're struggling to deal with playing in all these competitions. They got beat by Hertha Berlin, second tier side last midweek. It feels
very similar to the build up to Ammonia. If Hearts do certain things right, then they can take advantage of the frailties that are there of Heidenheim. I'm just wary that it's a Bundesliga team, and it could just come to them being a better team than us, and we aren't able to cope. But at the same time, Tynecastle can be a real leveler on nights like that, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am this might just me being I don't know what the word is, but maybe ignorant might be the word. But I just look at the Bundesliga is the Bundesliga as a whole as good as you kind of just think it is, because it's the German top flight. But you look at RB Leipzig, they are second in the table, and Celtic made them look completely ordinary. But then, I mean, you can flip it, and you can put it on the flip side and go look at what's happened to Celtic and Borussia Dortmund. But I look at Heidenheim from what I've read, and it seem to be, or what I've read and what I've heard, a team there that Hearts shouldn't be scared off, shouldn't be feared off, should respect. And like I said, on their day, they could be a very difficult opposition. But I don't think, for example, going back 2 years, I don't think they're going to be a Fiorentina. I don't think they're going to be an Istanbul Basaksehir, where they come and they're just like, wow, they are miles ahead of us. I do think that there is there's not that much a gulf on paper. Yes, this is the hardest team we'll face in the league phase, but kind of looking at it, I think we've had quite a good draw in the league phase, and this is a game where I've got a wee bit of confidence.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I wrote that when after the draw that we definitely could have drawn a far worse team from that pot. And yeah, I totally agree. It's a good time to be playing them, and they're missing a lot of their. Not missing. They've lost. They're basically their front three from last season. So yeah, I need to get out of here. So we will finish up by me asking a prediction. What's going to happen, Joe?
I reckon we'll win 3-1.
3-1.
Very, very, very ballsy here, but I've been taken in by what Stefan said, what their recent form, going back to the Ammonia when we kind of built into confidence there, and just think if we win tomorrow, then not only have we qualified for the knockout stages, we can actually start looking at being one of the top 8 and getting through to straight through the last 16, which is mental. But I am interested to see what team you'll go for, but I do think it'll be it'll be the same back 5 as it was against St Johnstone, Spenny and Boateng. I think Forrest and Vargas will start instead of trying to think who instead of Dander. So it'll be I think Vargas through the middle, Spittle on the left, and Forrest on the right, or Spittle is number 10 with Vargas wide and Forrest wide.
I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1, and that will
also take that.
Mean we're qualified as well. So yeah, I'll take either. But looking forward to it. As always, check out everything at heartstandard.co.uk. We will be back tomorrow night after the game, and another quick turnaround before the game on Sunday. What were you going to say, Joe?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. And if you're in the Gorgie suite before the game tomorrow, Craig and I will be chatting there as well. Just kind of what we've been chatting about here, but when the team news gets announced, and then kind of previewing it for 10-15 minutes.
So yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the game, and we will see everybody back here soon.